Folks, welcome back to Mandalay Bay. Happy Sunday morning here. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. And we are joined today by a legendary bass player and really a beautiful human being, Rollebert Caston. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Oh, please stop it. Don't. Please. No. How you doing, Jake?
It's good to see you, brother.
All right, vice versa. Good to see you here in Las Vegas.
Can you just talk to the audience about, we talked about this in the first interview, but I want you to talk to younger cats out there, or older cats, the importance of a bass player making the notes round. The calluses you develop and making the notes round.
Well, to make a note round, number one, you need to depress a note really good. Especially, if you're playing bass. No matter what instrument you play, you have to play the note with feeling. So if it's keyboards, you can ask Clarence McDonald about that. Just press those keys down firmly when you're playing string instruments. Same thing with the strings and so forth and so on. However, now the roundness of the note talks about the wholeness, and let's talk about the feeling. How you get the feeling of having a note round. Well, you have to feel the music. You have to know what the singer's singing about. You have to know what all the instruments are playing, and you have to know where you're going to put that note. So it actually fills up the most space in the right places.
Was Domingo Ballant, who's going to be watching this, was he a round note guy? What did you learn from him about playing those round notes?
Well, Domingo is a very fluent, melodic bass player, and when you talk,
he's speaking a great language, though. Beautiful melodies on his bass.
Exactly.
But he let you. So go ahead. Tell me about that. Was that the first exposure you had to the round notes?
Yep, I would have to say yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Tell me, tell me the story though about Marvin when you joined him. And he, I just think it's really important for how he delivered the message to you, where he said, you're doing a great job, but you need to play the notes rounder. Can you talk to the peeps about that story?
Well, he didn't use the word round. He used the word sing. Marvin said, let your notes sing.
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 Okay, a little bit louder.
Sing. Oh.
Yeah, project, because we got helicopters all over the place.
Let your notes sing. So that's what Marvin was talking about. And what he meant by letting your notes sing is let the notes have a harmony. Every note, although it's a single note, there's a harmony within a single note. And if you allow it to have its full value in the place where you put that note, that is now allowing the note to have its full value, to allowing it to sing, and then coupled by being round as well.
Did you know what he was talking about at first?
I did. I sure did.
And how did you? And who were you? Who was your rhythm mate on the bandstand? Who was drumming with you? And how did you cook the groove together like that? Does the drummer have a responsibility if you are, as a bass player, more conscious of singing, note singing, and placement? Quality over quantity, roundness over flat.
Well, every drummer has a responsibility. The drummer's first responsibility is keeping time. His second responsibility, in contemporaneous with keeping time, is the pocket and the feeling. And obviously, coupled with all that are the accents that are within the body of the piece that you're playing.
I dig, yeah. So, who was your rhythm mate? Because this is Marvin at that time. It was, you remind me of that James Jamerson quality bass player.
Oh, you're too kind.
Well, he's the grand master, but
grand
pontificate. But who was the drummer with Marvin? Did he have any words of advice for the drummer?
He may have, and Marvin was a drummer. Marvin started out his career as a drummer. He was Smokey Robinson's drummer.
I know little Stevie Wonder was a drummer. I didn't know Marvin was a drummer.
Yeah. Marvin started out as Smokey Robinson's drummer. And one night, Diana Ross couldn't go on, and they said, they asked Marvin, hey, let's do a set, and next thing you know, the rest is history.
So how percussive was Marvin's tunes in general? Did he bring a real sort of rhythm to the. I mean, there's a danceable quality to the tunes, but I guess it makes more sense now that he was a drummer. Did you actually see him play traps?
Yeah, absolutely. We played traps, we played piano on the gigs that we were on, and
he played piano.
Yeah. You look at some of those YouTube videos of Marvin Gaye Live, 1974 Midnight Special Show. He's doing a piano solo.
We got to see David Carlos Santana last night, and he was at the peak performance and still going strong, 7 decades in.
Phew, my man.
But can you talk about this idea of the corporate rock paradigm that we're dealing with in our country now? This idea of having residencies at places like last night, we made the observation that very few peeps in the audience were actually local. It wasn't like when you were playing at the Rock Garden or with Rick Steve. You know, when you were playing on Broadway, and you'd play for several days at a time. It was local cats coming to check you guys out. But in this corporate rock paradigm now, can you talk about how it's changed since when you first came on the scene?
The metamorphosis that the music business has taken since I came on the scene is just.
Is there a way to sort of put it in a timeline for the people listening all over the world? Because I mean, I was born when you were essentially 10 years into your career.
Yeah.
But just now, like you go to the Marquee, and they're publicizing Carlos Santana concerts for another residency here. But the peeps here, like they were just in from out of town because there was no collective consciousness. Rollebert, you know, you understand it's not like there's an affinity, a deep connection between the artist and the people themselves in trying to galvanize a collective consciousness within that live musical setting. Can you talk about that? Because that was pretty prevalent when you were first on the scene.
Well, how Carlos Santana and that whole genre of music melted
Abel
in.
Zarate, you were with Jorge Santana.
Well, I wasn't with him. Abel Zarate was in the Malo band.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but just if you can you talk about that metamorphosis in your own and the timelines, the demarcation lines, some of the significant things that have happened over time, in your opinion?
Oh my goodness! Well, heck, you say you were born 10 years into my career.
Well, 68 you started, right? 68, roughly 69.
Well, right. But I started listening to music, you know, around 5-6 years old
Sure.
and so forth. But anyway, let's not even go
But
back.
when your career started, like for instance, with, you know, if you went on a tour, what did that look like when you go on a tour in terms of, I mean, were people getting you kale if you needed kale per diem? I mean, what I'm saying is the catering. Joe Sample told me around 1980 or so, he just started noticing that the musicians became much more concerned about where their limo was than how the music felt. Can you talk about that?
Well, you know, look, when you're a young up-and-coming musician, you're playing clubs, you're doing all these kind of things, fairs or whatever, and now you hit the big time. It goes to your head. Some people don't have the wherewithal to control it. Some do. Let's take the Rolling Stones, for instance. Look at them. Timeless, ageless, still going strong. Why? Because they're smart. They do and play within the game of life and music.
Explain the game of life. How do you stay within the game of life? Because you're talking about it goes to your head, but it's also an ego thing.
Yeah, that happens to people. That ego comes in and it takes them over, and it's pretty much it's ended a lot of people's career early. It has stymied a lot of people's career from moving forward from where it should have been at any particular time. So yeah, those are the teardrops of the music business. The happy part is the making of the music.
You know, what would be your advice to people to stay within the lines of the game of life? I mean, how have the Stones stayed within the game of life? This is fascinating to me.
Well, the Stones, they leaped on a pedestal that is higher than most people will probably ever get, you know. So it's easy. When you know, Larry Graham told me one time.
Yo, Larry, man,
yeah.
dude, I hope he's watching.
Oh yeah, that's my funk brother. Hey, Larry, look, You told Larry. I remember I was standing in your house one Christmas Eve, and I was congratulating you on your new album, Grand Central Station, the first one you made. I said, "Man, Larry, you're on top now." And you said to me, "It's one thing to be on top; it's another thing to stay there." And I took that real serious, and it was good hearing that from you, my brother.
How hard was it for you when you reached the pinnacle of your career, and how were you able to stay there?
Well, obviously, I wasn't able to stay there.
Yeah, I mean, you have the shelf life for anybody is there, but like it didn't. You said it. I mean, this was one of those things where that ruined some people's careers, but it didn't ruin your career.
Well, see, my attitude was I'd rather be a has-been than I never was. So,
that's a Clarence McDonald right there.
That's my attitude right there. So I'm happy. I wake up, go to bed every day happy. So, and I'm happy to still be here to be able to play a note as much as I can. So that's about it. Yeah.
Did you just talk a little bit about how you were impacted by the loss of Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, and maybe to a lesser extent John Coltrane? It seems like we lost these titans of spirituality and love and leadership at a certain period of time, right when you started, and it changed fundamentally. It hurt. It broke our heart a little bit as a country. But do you remember where you were at and what you were feeling like, especially when Dr. King was assassinated?
I was a very young man. Growing up in my era, a lot of information was not shared between parents and children. So the greater understanding of what was going on in the world at that time wasn't really there for my generation, as it is now with all the social media and the news. And
meaning, like your parents wouldn't even tell you that he was assassinated?
No, I mean, we knew he was assassinated. Excuse me.
Yeah.
However, the reasonings behind, an adult can reason why an adult action happens, but a child, an adolescent, a teenager, even a young adolescent, 12 or whatever, doesn't, in my day, did not really have that type of reasoning available, and the parents did not instill those type of thoughts in the children at the time.
When did you find out about it? When did you become enlightened by it, and how did it affect you as a person?
Well, I found out about it immediately, right away, and it was just. I have to tell you, my feeling, and I can almost feel it right now, I was tremendously saddened. I did not go into any kind of cards, if you will, in my mind about why it happened. I didn't grow up that way, so I didn't think that way.
Talking to Rollebert, Caston here on the Jake Feinberg Show, and people are loving this interview already. What other examples of bands? Someone just chimed in, the Stones are a good example. Is there another group that you can point to that has stood the test of time by playing within the lines?
Oh yeah, I have to go to my brothers, the Chambers Brothers.
Look at
hey.
Well, okay, explain that, because there was a nasty fallout between the four of them. Because Lester was a beat. I mean, right? I mean, those cats. Tell me the real scoop, and why you brought them up. That's interesting.
Well, number one, I love them to death. Okay, and yeah, and the bottom line is, the Chambers Brothers. I hope you listen.
Lester.
Yeah. Joe, Pops, everybody, listen. There's no group right now today that goes back that far. A group that's that old that can put its original members together right now today. No other group other than the Chambers Brothers. If I'm wrong, Google me, tell me I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. So you guys, you're missing it. Come on back. We love you. Everybody loves you. They've been playing your music on football and everything else for years. So come on back, guys. That's all I can say.
Could you talk? I know this is a little bit, outside the paradigm, considering that you came up at a different time in your career, but can you talk about what needs to change? The record companies have gone from 6 to 3, We have 3 record companies left. They're making billions of dollars now. They were hurting a little bit at the turn of the century with Napster and free downloading, but now they're making billions. The artists are making pennies on the dollar based on hits. From a musician's point of view, what has to change?
I can't say on no.
I'm going to say. And here's the thing, and vice versa, and just for the record, for younger peeps out there to know how you sang for your supper, like with Stu Gardner, who's going to watch this interview, and my man James Gadsden. When you cooked the groove on Soul Sanctified, did you still get royalties from that stuff? I mean, how does that work?
If I no royalties.
No royalties.
No royalties. Hey Stu, no royalties.
But also it's some of that stuff might have gotten sampled. Though.
300 more of you out there too. No royalties. So let's fess up. It's time. I'm an old man.
So tell me how you how to square. You're aware of this issue with pennies on the dollar. How does it have to change? Is legislation going to do it?
Actually, I think it's really, seriously, it has to be a deep insurgence by us, the musicians, the people that write this music, produce this music, put this music out there. We have to control our own destiny. And everybody knows when you leave that in someone else's hand, I'm not going to mention any names, but their initials are the producers. You may be suffering. You may not get every penny you're looking for. Let's just put it like that. So, we have to control our own destiny. Keep a better handhold on it. But now, once again, with all the social media and all this technology out there, it's difficult.
Of course, we're giving Rollebert Caston some great exposure here on New Media, which is just so beautiful. It was Brother David Garibaldi's birthday yesterday.
Oh, my brother.
And I was so immersed in this Hunter S. Thompson journalism of Santana that I didn't even have a chance to give him a shout. But I want you to talk about what was most inspiring about seeing Garibaldi in those early days with Rick Stevens and even the cat, I can't remember his name now, who was singing, but...
Rufus Miller?
Miller.
Yeah.
But you talk about Garibaldi on the kit at that time. What was he doing to expand the vocabulary of music?
Look.
First of all, happy birthday, Garibaldi.
Yeah, Dave, I love you, man. Happy birthday.
He's back on tour now. He's back.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, because
and Dave, just as well as I, because I was right there with you, watching you, man. It's like Dave Garibaldi is one of the most fantastic drummers of all time. Talk about somebody that could cook a groove from the first lick to the last lick, and I don't mean of the song, I mean the evening.
But in terms, what was your in terms of this and the sound that was because he brought a big band jazz sound to a funk band. Can you talk about his style, just from your point of view?
Look. Dave Garibaldi, what Dave Garibaldi brought, what Dave Garibaldi made very known to the music business is one word: syncopation. Simple as that.
A lot of people want to know what that. You break that because that was what James Brown's drummers were doing. But what does that mean?
Man, syncopation is just motoring. Just think you're on a locomotive going 590 miles an hour. That's syncopation. That's hooking it up. That's tapping. On the drum tip, that's tapping. Dave Garibaldi, he's phenomenal. No one was ever like him. I don't believe I've never heard anybody ever like him since. He was a machine, a technical machine. He could do, I believe, it was 7-stroke roll with one hand. He had that technique where the stick is in between his finger like this, and he would dribble the stick in between the finger. It's just not controlling it with the wrist like this, but even making the stick dribble like that.
Not easy.
Ask Garibaldi about his technique if he will tell you. It may be patented. You may have to come up with some royalties to find out.
The books are there. What about Harvey Hughes? Did you know Harvey?
Didn't have a lot of.
Because he's in Vegas. Him and Garibaldi used to be playing drum games together in their apartment all day long. That's where he got those rhythm. Although they played games, they were just playing different games together.
Yeah. When I was coming up, Harvey was more on the road, so he wasn't really around. I was playing clubs when Harvey was out touring and making good money.
Can you talk about the touring circuit? I mean, like last night, cats come in. Carlos has his house here in Vegas. They whisk him out the door 5 minutes after the show. He's gone. Like he comes in, burns for 2.5 hours, and they cooked. And there was something for everybody. There was Afro-Cuban, there was pop, there was funk, there was a little kind of jazz. But it was something for everybody. Talk about an experience on the Chitlin circuit and give an idea of the environment, the floorboards, the environment you were playing in, and what it did for your own individual sound.
Well, the Chitlin circuit is a great stepping stone for any up and coming musician, whether you're up and coming or not. Just to be playing.
Did you go outside of California?
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
who would you go with and where?
There was a group in Southern California called the Bean Brothers. That was their original name, but when they Bean, yeah, B-E-A-N, Bean Brothers.
The Bean Brothers.
Yeah.
Oh, this is unbelievable.
Yeah. And they got a recording contract with RCA Records, and RCA changed their name to Fully Guaranteed. And
wow.
So yeah, we went on the road, did a few gigs up in Seattle and around. And as a matter of, I won't even go into that story right now.
What happened?
Yeah. Well,
can you give us the PC version?
Yeah. I ran into Earth, Wind and Fire before they were called Earth, Wind and Fire.
The Salty Peppers, right?
Yeah. Back in those days. So yeah. The Chitlin circuit's up, and once again, it's a stepping stone. You can't live. A musician can't live without it. You have to have it. It gives you all the experience and the prerequisites you need to take your place if you're going to Amongst the Stars.
I was just transcribing my interview with Barry Melton, who was the Fish and Country Joe in the Fish.
Okay.
And he went to see Charles Mingus at the end of his career.
Wow.
At the both end.
Wow.
Okay. There was about 12 people in the crowd.
Wow.
And Mingus was stone cold broke. Can you talk about an artist that you saw at the end of their career and they had nothing left? I mean, what his point was, this is what we do to our geniuses in this country. Duke Ellington was the same way. You put them on unsustainable tours, and you don't fund it, okay? And ultimately, it's never recognized. They're never recognized for their true. Do you have an example of somebody you can point to?
Do you have a mirror? No. Listen.
What's your response to that? You're right. It's right there. You're right here.
Yeah. The musicians take an ugly turn when they don't recognize that it's coming to an end. And not saying a musical end. When you're on a high, you're out there playing with the Stevie Wonders and these type of people, and you're just a sideman. You're not actually part of the group.
You're an accompanist.
Yeah, you're, like I say, yeah, okay. And it's hard to really put away for a future, and when guys don't realize that they need to think about doing something else to keep a roof over their head and keep the hungries away, they don't do it. They want to continue to think that they can play music and subsidize their lifestyle, and then bad things happen. Drugs, maybe criminal acts. These type of things come in and they take the better or the best of somebody that was a really good person, a really good musician, and just fell on hard times and didn't have the wherewithal to pull their bootstraps up and deal with it.
Can you talk about the legacy of Sylvester Sly Stone?
Oh man!
Because I mean, I feel like you're kind of talking about him in some ways, but at the same time, what is the legacy of Sly Stone to that Bay Area? Thank you for letting me be myself. I mean, it seemed like that open. You just riff on that. Did you play with Sly ever?
No. Sly Stone is not just a legacy. He is a legacy to the galaxy. He's a legacy to the universe.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah.
I mean, explain that out, because I mean that's cosmic.
Well, funk, soul music was devised by I feel, in my opinion, okay, so soul music came about by James Brown, and those
Ray
type of
Charles
people.
and those cats.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Sly, put some funk on it. You never really heard of funk until Sly came into the game, and he changed it, with his rhythms, his melodies, how he put it all together. Very personalized, Sly Stone, and every time you hear a bass string go bam, that's Sly Stone.
It was Larry Graham, right?
Once again, see, Larry.
Larry, man, I cannot wait for Larry. So tell me the truth. Wasn't Larry?
Well, it was a couple. I believe, and Larry, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but it was a coupling of interest, between Mr. Stone and Mr. Graham when it came to the way the music was played and the way the bass was interpreted with Sly's music. Sly is a producer like no other. He has his own way, but the man is extremely knowledgeable about what goes on in the studio and how everything works, and that gives him a big heads up. He's very creative with sounds that he devises and how he puts them together. I mean, there's just really not too many words you can say about Mr. Stewart. Now, when it gets into his personal life, everybody's personal life is their personal life, and I would like to think that Mr. Stewart has probably lived a pretty illustrious personal life, so I'm feeling pretty happy.
But he never. I mean, he's broke.
Well, from what I understood, now you correct me if I'm
wrong. No, I mean, you know better. You're more tapped than me. Because you know what it is. He won the settlement, but no money was ever given. Rico told me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's this. But you know what? He's a legend of the galaxy.
Yes.
Or whatever you said poetically there.
Yes.
Give me the Rollebert Caston version. What is your concept of jazz? What is your definition of jazz? Because it's become so perverted in this time. What is your definition of jazz? Because you started playing jazz aesthetic music when you first started coming up.
Yes. Well, jazz to me is just the alter world of classical music. That's how I look at it. It's like you have classical music and you have the alter world of jazz.
So break it down. I mean, it's classical's pretty straight ahead. I mean, you're just looking straight.
Yeah.
You're taking your cues from the conductor. So where's the improvisation come in?
Well, okay, the classical music is your Beethoven, and jazz is your James Brown. Can you?
Where's Dizzy?
He's spinning.
No, for the audience, explain that though. Mike
Well, classical music, has all the nice, sweet roots and harmonies, and it's played in a time signature where you can just really lay back and mellow out and catch every note, every whisper that happens in classical music. Jazz is like, I gotta get up, I go into work, gotta get in the car, I gotta drive.
Pushing the tempo.
Yeah.
Did you play in a classical bag ever?
No.
Never classical.
No.
And have you ever played the upright bass?
Yes, I did. I started on that. Yes.
You talk about the muscles that you need in your arms and wrists to play the upright bass.
Tremendous.
Show the parts of the arm that need to be strengthened.
Well, the forearm right here. The forearm, all this has to be, your hands have to be extremely, and then obviously you got to have some guns too, and not to mention you have to have some wing muscles in here as well. So all of this comes in, even on both sides when someone's playing an upright bass. It's a monster.
Just final question for you from my end,
Excuse me.
Rollebert, is just I really want you to talk about playing with Hampton Hawes. You played upright with Hampton?
No, electric.
You played electric bass with Hampton
Yes,
Hawes.
sir.
Can you talk about that experience? I mean, that guy, just looking at him,
Nah.
I mean, another Universal Galaxy character.
Yeah.
Can you talk about playing with Ham?
Oh, it was playing with Hampton was just a great experience. Extremely nice, elegant, eloquent man. Musical knowledge up the yang.
Well, I mean, like when was it you and Gadsden played with him? Who was the rhythm section?
Yeah, it was myself, James Gadsden, Hampton obviously on keyboards. I'm trying to remember. We had a saxophone player.
Oh, it'd be great. It was like Hadley Callum or something.
You know what? I'm almost thinking it was.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
but,
I know.
the bottom line is this: how did he come in? Like, I mean, you were not part of his. Did he come in with just chord changes and no arrangements? I mean, that's the loose quality of jazz that I love. Where like Gene Page would give David T. and Jamerson or Wilton, whoever was the rhythm section for Barry White. Gene Page would come in and just give them chord changes, and maybe give Ed Green, the drummer, a little bit of instruction on the kind of feel he would want on the group. But there was nothing. There were no arrangements. The times that you were playing with Hampton, his music was about as abstract as you could get. When you got to a gig, was it just figure it out? Were there?
No, we rehearsed at Hampton's house, I believe, 3 times, and everybody in Los Angeles, especially back in the day, everybody had charts. So Hampton also had charts as well. So we had charts and we rehearsed 3 times.
You still have calluses on your fingers?
Well, yeah, because I'm playing. I'm still playing. Yeah.
You are playing. So
Yes,
talk about the opportunities you get to play and how thankful you are to be yourself and that you have been able to stay on your spiritual path and, like you said, not got sucked up with the ego or the fame, and how you've been able to maintain.
Well, just once again, I love life. There's nothing about life I don't love. Stuff you can't even see, I love it, and I respect it tremendously.
What's something you can't see that you love?
Well, can't see air, stuff like that. I just love everything. Just love it, and I'm in love with everything, and I just have a great outlook, and
that's
I don't ever want to die. I want to live.
No,
forever.
you're not. We're all transcending the cycle of birth and death. But the other thing I want to ask you is, without going into specifics, you've been dealt some serious adversity, physical adversity. How have you not allowed yourself to become a victim?
You got to have a great attitude. You just got to have you have to keep a great outlook on life every second. It's easy. I do it all the time. Been doing it for decades, so it's just second nature to me.
I'm going to pass it over to my partner at Sade. There you go.
You, when I first met you, you spoke about the difference having being adopted.
Oh.
And I was just wondering how maybe, if at all, and I don't know how different your parents are from your own ethnic and cultural background that you were born into. But talk about what that feels like to find art in a family where you feel maybe other or different.
My adopted parents told me, even when they got me at a young age, and they got me when I was around 5, and they told me I was in stores cutting up, dancing and mimicking performers that were out in that era. So something musical was in me already. Some rhythm was going through me. And then they gave me accordion lessons when I was around 8 years old. Yeah, no, strike that. About 6, 7, 8 years old. Gave me accordion lessons.
Were you asking
For accordion lessons?
Or for
No,
any lessons?
No. They just had that program, and so I guess the accordion teacher needed some students, so hey, let's get your kid to play accordion anyway. But it was good. It taught me music. I was just instructed by a great teacher. His name was Don Trimmer, which was the big band conductor at Bimbo's 365 Club in San Francisco back in the day. He was my accordion teacher, and then it went from that, and I picked up the trumpet for a while, and when I got into when I moved up in school, I wanted to play trumpet, but I was a big kid, so they said, no, you're gonna play tuba and sousaphone. So I started playing tuba and sousaphone, and then no instruments from about 17 to 19, and that's when 19 or 20, that's when I picked up the bass. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the public school system that seems like year after year defunded in arts and music education, in particular in inner cities where Black and brown children are. What would you like to see for the future in children involved in music? How do we rectify a public school system that doesn't offer that, with music education being private and so expensive?
Okay, everybody out there, listen to this one really good. I'm going to give you $1 billion system that will work. What I would propose to do is that kids that are going to, let's say they're going into first grade, all the second graders come back to the first grade and tutor one-on-one everybody in the first grade for at least 6 weeks or so of the beginning of the semester. This would give every child in the first grade a one-on-one tutor with somebody that's already just came out of that grade that they were just in. And the same thing happens with the second graders, the third graders come back, the fourth graders come back, and so forth and so forth. It gives a one-on-one tutor with the kids that are coming into the grades that the kids that are tutoring just came from. I think that system right there would surely energize any school system.
Because we've found through research that children who maybe not doing so well in school, once they discover a relationship with the instrument, everything else falls into place. Can you talk a little bit about your understanding of that in your own life?
Well, I've said this before, is when we speak English or whatever language you speak, and you speak to another person, you could take that language and you could couple it with 2 people or 2 million people, and you could say, hey, let's talk about Jake's glasses. And when all these people start talking about Jake's glasses, it sounds like mumble jumble. It doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. However, if you take the same 2 people, the same 2 million people, and put an instrument in their hand and say, now, express yourself about Jake's glasses, all of a sudden, it sounds like something. It makes sense. A rhythm, a zone comes together between 2 or millions of people that don't even know each other. Music is the international, intergalactic language, period.
Awesome. So let's continue on that stream, because we know that the musician develops their skill, and maybe it's just for themselves, for that own journey that makes them whole. At what point can you actually measure your impact as a performing artist? And if you can't, as a performing artist, how do you take the harmony that you speak of that's necessary in music outside of your instrument? How do you use all these lessons in the music in your daily life?
Music, well, it's this, you may not believe this, but music for a musician, or actually for just everybody, people, and you experience, I'm sure everybody experiences, that music will move you. If music comes on, I don't know anybody just sits and doesn't react to music playing. And if they don't, obviously something is, maybe they're hearing impaired or something. But music moves everyone pretty much. And I know everybody's experienced this. You've been watching television and you don't have the sound on the television on, but you got the radio or something on, and somebody's dancing. It always seems like they're on
Syncs
time.
up. How is that?
I don't know. We'll have to Zoom Rod Sterling or something and find out.
In closing, I just would really like to know what your vision is now for how you see yourself. You're playing music on a regular basis, twice a month. But how do you keep what's your soundtrack if it's not your own? Like, we need music for the background, for our revolution. So if you're not listening to yourself, who are you listening to? And why? Why does it give you that fire to keep you going?
Well, for me, just like the sound of the wind we're hearing in the background, hearing the leaves, to me that's music. Every sound to me is music. And so that's how I look at it. So I like everything. I mean, it's not a musical song or whatever I can say that I don't like. I like it all. I just hit the table. I like that sound. So.
Do you seek out new music or other artists, or do you listen to what you know from the, like, if you were to go put a CD in or choose a song, who's in your playlist?
I have to tell you, it would be Luther Vandross.
Wow.
Ah.
Yeah, if I was going to listen to a song.
Here and now.
Yeah, or Shine. I like that. Yeah, that's a nice up tune. Yeah, but anything Luther did is fantastic. Yeah.
Rollebert, it's such a pleasure to be present with your light and love for life.
Thank you.
And may it continue in the fullness for you.
Thank you so much.
All right.